Dungeons & Dragons got its own cartoon show in 1983. Now, this is a bit before my time, but I do distinctly recall catching reruns of this probably like 10 years later or something like that. I don't remember a whole lot from that, but let me tell you, now that I've started watching it again, it sure is a thing. The intro sequence sets up how 6 friends got stuck in the world of Dungeons & Dragons.
Hey, look! A Dungeons & Dragons ride!
Really? Not like a magic D&D book or something? Maybe they were playing it and suddenly became their characters? Nah, let's go with the old roller coaster hook. The opening also shows us exactly what the party makeup is.
Fear not, Ranger, Barbarian, Magician, Thief, Cavalier, and ACROBAT.
Well, we've already got a thief, so maybe you could balance the party out by being a cleric, or maybe a druid, or something like a monk could be cool. Wait! ACROBAT! That's the best class!
Who was that?
That was Venger, the force of evil. I am Dungeon Master, your guide in the realm of Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm throwing away my D&D books. Clearly, I don't need them, as the intro to this cartoon has taught me everything I need to know about Dungeons and Dragons. Every episode has the kids pursuing one goal: to escape this fantasy realm and return to the real world, which is probably the most unbelievable aspect of this entire cartoon show. I want to live here. The party consists of Sheila the Thief, who has a magic cloak of invisibility. Though she doesn't get many opportunities to turn invisible, nor does she steal things very often to make her seem useful. Still, she's level-headed and is quick to point out possible flaws in their plans. Presto is the party's magician, who must have took the conjuration school specialization since all he ever does is pull crap out of his magic hat. And he pretty much always screws it up, making him close to worthless. The youngest member is Bobby the Barbarian. He has a magic club of indistinct powers, presumably strength enhancements? All he ever does with it is knock stuff over or hit the ground to make things fall. Also, I want to point out how much I hate the fact that this kid is far more ripped than I will ever be. He is 8. Diana the Acrobat has a magic staff of changing size. At least she's proficient with it and is one of the other competent members of the team. Eric the Cavalier sucks. He sucks. All he has is a shield of protection, but spends most of his time whining, complaining, abandoning the party, and being the butt of every joke. He sucks so much, even the rest of the party makes fun of him.
We can't go anywhere until I get the rocks out of my shoe.
Keep them. Maybe the rocks in your head need company, Eric.
Also, he's racist.
How many dwarves does it take to change a light bulb? None! They can't reach it! They're not troll enough!
Finally, there's Hank the Ranger. He's clearly the only person who's played D&D before, because he's kind of a badass. He has a bow that shoots energy arrows, he saves the party frequently, and is the only person who can basically fight. He's rad. Come to think of it, among all of them, they have exactly one weapon, and it shoots laser beams. This is one of those cartoons where every battle is laser beams or things being knocked over to fall on enemies. The rare times a sword does appear, it never cuts, only shoots more laser beams. Fun fact, this is once considered to be the most violent cartoon show on television. Probably because of how badly it butchers the source material. Oh yeah, they also have a unicorn named Uni, because every kids show needs a pet animal of some sort. The big bad guy of the series is an evil dude named Venger. He can achieve ultimate power if he's able to obtain all 6 magical items of the party. And check this out, he's voiced by Optimus Prime.
You have invaded the Castle Avenger. Autobots, transform and roll out!
It's hard to call this guy intimidating, since anytime he shoots some magic, it has the same cartoon sound effect of a fat guy getting stuck in a tube. Also frequently showing up is Dungeon Master. Not the Dungeon Master, his name is Dungeon Master. He'll appear before the party to set them up for this episode's adventure, giving a bit of backstory and always leaves them off with a riddle to solve, which is actually pretty neat. The riddle always ends up being integral to the plot, and figuring it out alongside the party, well, half of them, makes it fun to watch. I can't tell if he's the nicest DM ever, literally handing them everything they need,
Lose this, wizard?
My hat!
or if he's the cruelest DM I've ever seen. For example, this is how episode 1 begins.
Look! There! It's Tiamat the dragon!
Tiamat, what? Were they like level 1? 3 of them suck? They trick Tiamat and trap her in a cave, so thankfully there isn't a TPK in their first session. Dungeon Master tells them to seek the great wizard Merlin because the DM couldn't be bothered to come up with an original name for help getting home. Things were going okay until frickin' Tiamat again! It's like Dungeon Master is saying, "You're gonna fight this, damn it! I put a lot of work into this encounter!" Well, color me impressed though. They managed to fight off Tiamat long enough to set up a trap for her. The entire party used teamwork. Wonder what that's like. Presto works on a magic spell for Merlin, but then tries to do another one to open a portal home. Instead, it unleashes a horde of dragons on the nearby town the rest of the party is celebrating at. Turns out, Merlin is actually a polymorph Venger who tricked Presto into undoing the real Merlin's protection spell. You know, I gotta admit, that's a pretty good plot twist. I could personally see myself doing that in a session if I was a dungeon master. Everyone at the town quickly mounts up on horses to return to Merlin's castle to help Presto. Whoa! They just showed Sheila's underwear. Did they think we wouldn't notice? I noticed. You noticed. At the castle, they realize there's no way for them to fight off Venger because they're still trying to figure out how Thaco works. The only thing that could fight him off is something just as powerful, Tiamat. They let her loose so that they fight each other. This forces Venger to retreat while they recast the protection spell. Again, this is kind of cool. It's a clever way for the party to solve one of their problems, and this episode so far has been really good at giving each character kind of a moment to shine. So far, a great start for the series. My main complaint about the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon is that it's not very Dungeons & Dragons-y. You'll often see some familiar monsters, dragons, manticores, bullywugs, and even a beholder in the second episode. Which apparently the beholder's main weakness is the beauty of a flower, which makes him deflate like a balloon. You'd think there'd be more iconic D&D NPCs or locations and the like. There is Tiamat, yes, and in one episode...
Your bodies I leave to Loth, demon queen of spiders.
Loth? In before Drizzt shows up and edgelords his way out of this one. Also, I remember Loth looking a little more... different. That's kind of it? They don't even use iconic D&D magic spells, which I feel like would be the easiest thing to incorporate. It teeters on the edge of being a generic fantasy cartoon, but there's just enough there to remind you that this is Dungeons & Dragons.
I can't believe this! We're fighting snails!
Yeah, and losing!
Alright, that's pretty relatable. Of the first 9 episodes, they're all pretty good, to be honest. One of my favorite episodes was one where each member needs to fight their own worst fear. It allowed for some decent character development for them. Hank fears not being a reliable leader. Sheila has monophobia and hates being alone. Eric sucks. Presto fears being blind and loses his glasses. Bobby and Diana fear being too young and old respectively, and did I just see a boob? That was some straight up titty nipple! Between this and Sheila's underwear, and there was definitely a part where Hank got a handful of Diana's butt, I didn't realize that this campaign was going to be using so much material from the Book of Erotic Fantasy. Do not look that up.
Who won the 1981 World Series?
It was the Dodgers over the Yankees, 4-2.
Metagamer! It's not my favorite cartoon show ever. I wouldn't exactly call it bad either. It's certainly better than a lot of other video game cartoons and movies that I've seen. It could just use some more D&D in it. That's why my final rating for this show is a deflated beholder out of 10. It sure looks like Dungeons & Dragons, but you quickly realize how little essence there is on the inside. I like seeing all the D&D monsters, and the adventures themselves sure do invoke that feeling of playing in a real D&D session. I think I'd be less annoyed if more than just half the party was any good, or if they could have more attacks than just the bow. But I like the vast array of locales they travel to, and Dungeon Master's riddles are pretty neat. Even if it's a bit simple, there are moments of character development, intrigue, or moral quandaries that they go through. It's certainly not my first choice of cartoon to go back and watch, but it has more good going for it than bad. The show ran for 3 seasons and had 27 episodes. Sadly, a proper finale was never made, even though they had the script for it written. I don't really see how this was considered to be the most violent cartoon show on television at the time. Everything that I saw was pretty tame and— oh my god! His face is melting off!